that we are on YouTube, so well, everybody's polite anyway, so it's fine. Okay, so on to the agenda.
No, public session.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wasn't actually starting it, sorry. I was just bringing the agenda up. My bad. Okay, so public session, who would like to speak? Nobody?
We have a John Mortimer, and we have a Dr. Gabrielle as well.
Right, John, do you want to go first?
Sure. What's the maximum time I have, please?
There's 15 minutes shared across if there's only two of you, but you are a little bit quiet. Do you mind bringing your mic slightly closer if that's possible, please?
Is that, hang on, is that better?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm not going to be very long, so I'll give plenty of time to other people.
Thank you.
I live next to North End Surgery. I live on the land adjoining the property that they intend to do the development work on. But I think there's two main things that I'd just like to mention. The first one, and obviously we're all aware of this, but in the medical facilities, what's actually, the way that things work around here is that the people that live around here, I live almost next to the supported living place, and of course there's a new one that's being built by the river. A lot of the properties around where I live are actually populated by elderly people, and they're purposely purchased by elderly people because they're close to the shops and everything. So in fact, we've got the oldest resident in Buckingham who lives just up the road. The idea of moving medical facilities to a place where you can't actually walk to is the wrong sort of logic. And in the planning application, they talk about the fact that COVID-19 emphasizes that we should actually have modern facilities. The whole point of learning from COVID-19 is actually we need local facilities where we don't need interaction with people. We need rapid access and we need local connections. A lot of the medical help that we give to people, elderly people, is actually helping to take people physically to the doctor's surgery and to get prescriptions. So by moving it up to where it's going to propose to be is a somewhat ridiculous and illogical process. But the second thing I wanted to mention is most of the neighbours that I've spoken to here in North End actually will be overseen by any property with 2 stories. We have a series of windows along the ground floor. We don't have windows, we have a whole glass area, and whoever is living behind that they're planning to build the properties there will have a grandstand view of us living our lives downstairs. We don't have the ability to have any kind of privacy. So the primary reason why we object to those properties, we don't object to housing, we object to the type of housing that they're proposing. It will be overseeing all our windows and all of the ground floor. So that's really what I wanted to mention this evening to you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Dr. Gabrielle, did you want to speak?
So we've got a statement that your town clerk suggested was the best way to go forward. So I'll just read from that, if that's okay. And the committee, I think, should be has been provided with a copy as well. So thank you to the town clerk and the committee for inviting us to address this meeting during the preceding public session. Planning applications 1332 and 1333 are a distinct and separate element of the Swan Practice future aspirations to develop a new health and care centre. Outline planning permission for our existing sites has been sought solely to aid the disposal of soon-to-be obsolete buildings which are currently owned by the GPs and will not be required for the provision of healthcare services following the opening of the new health and care centre. We're aware that the emotive subject of healthcare provision is prone to divert the attention from what is a simple outline planning application for the purpose of future business planning. As such, we ask the committee to judge the applications solely on their merits as planning applications. And to aid this, we would like to reiterate that the Swan practice remains committed to providing a town centre presence to meet the needs of the small proportion of our patients who will be unable to travel to the new health and care centre. And we continue to work with One Public Estate team on this. The Swan practice will provide uninterrupted healthcare provision for the residents of Buckingham and the surrounding villages during the transition to the new health and care centre. To further reassure the committee, our contract with the CCG would not allow for any provision for any gap in service, even if we were to want one. And we also ask the committee to consider the applications in the context that they're submitted as AOPs. We recognise there is nothing to stop a purchaser putting in a variation application, packing in more houses, enlarging the building, or deleting all the parking spaces, as mentioned during your agenda, but any such amendments would be required to go through an appropriate planning application. The committee would then have the opportunity to object to any inappropriate plans at that time. So we ask that these AOPs are considered grounds of the information presented today. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gabriel. Okay. Right, is there anybody else that wishes to speak in the public session? Mark? You're muted, Mark.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question of Dr. Gabriel, please.
Of course.
Yeah, George, thank you very much for the statement. We have, most of us were given it today. In the statement by your architects, they say you've got 3 surgeries in the town centre. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, so there are 3 premises that we utilise in the town centre. Verney Close surgery and North End surgery, which are the sites talked about in these applications, are currently used to deliver clinical services and are owned by the GP partners. Masonic House surgery is currently used for administration purposes only, as the building itself isn't fit for clinical service due to current CQC requirements. And so, and that building is not owned by the GP partners. It is currently rented from a third party.
Thank you. You've answered my next question as well. Thank you very much.
Warren wanted to say something. Oh, Geraldine.
Councillor White, would you like to speak next?
Oh, hello. Thank you. Just to say that I'll be observing for the first hour, but I need to go at 8 o'clock. So I'll just keep a watchful eye until then.
Okay.
Geraldine.
Yes.
Next.
Geraldine?
I'm just unmuting.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, Dr. Gabriel said they were intending to keep a town centre presence. So where is that going to be? If they're intending to sell off North End and Verney Close?
So this has been covered quite extensively and reported back to the Town Council General Committee. We're working with One Public Estate on a number of options, and there has been some money put aside for it. So there are a number of possibilities, but one of them includes potentially space in the library or knowledge centre on Verney Close. But in terms of the final details of that will all depend on timing, but we're committed to providing that, and the One Public Estate are committed to supporting us with that.
Okay, so some town centre presence for the people who can't get up to. Okay, thank you.
Paul's got his hand up.
Paul?
Myself.
You'd unmute, Paul.
There you go.
Right. George, have you got any idea at all on the timings? You know, it seems to go on and on this, and we don't seem to get any further forward. Is there any sort of timing for the closure on this?
I think at the moment I still can't give any definitive timeline. There is progress forward, but a lot of the factors are out of our control to do with local commissioning groups and things of that aspect. But we are certainly moving forward, and we're still optimistic that this will happen in the near future with a move in the within the next 2 years is our aims.
Right. Okay, that's near. Right. Thank you.
Lisa,
Yes,
Well-
Robin.
one question. Mr. Gabriel, who is it you're talking to in the one estate at Buckinghamshire Council?
So the Buckinghamshire Council representative on our committee is Jo West, and most of our liaisons have been through her. I've not actually been significantly involved directly with the One Public Estate conversations, but I know the nature of them, and
No, it's just I can, it's just to know who you're talking to. I can go and speak to them and find out more detail that way than questioning you endlessly.
of course.
Is there anybody else, Paul, that you can see? You're muted.
Carolyn, and then Warren wants to come back, I think, as well.
Okay, Carolyn.
Sorry, apologies, I couldn't get in to start with at the meeting, and so maybe this question has been answered. But one of the options, surely, for staying in the town presence might be either the Verney Close Centre or the hospital. Have either been considered, and what sort of conclusions reached?
Sorry, can I just clarify, by the Verney Close Centre, do you mean the current surgery?
Yes, I do. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So it's related to NHS funding. We haven't really got an option of continuing to keep the current surgeries open because essentially the funding for the new site is we only have a certain amount allocated for our patients. So keeping the sites in town isn't really an option in terms of moving, because it would mean that we couldn't secure funding for the new sites. Yes, the hospital is definitely one of the options in our menu for keeping a town centre present, but obviously it depends a lot on what the hospital plan and continue to do with that site and what services they'll run from there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Paul, did you want to come back on something?
Warren had his hand up as well.
Sorry, Warren.
Thank you. It was just with regards to the comments on One Public Estate. So because it falls in my old county ward, I was in conversation with Jo West some time ago, so I'll be happy to ask for an update and see if that's available to be shared with the town council.
That'd be lovely if you can. Thank you.
Thanks, Warren.
Right, is that everybody? Yep. Okay. Right, thank you, Dr. Gaviel and John, for coming along and giving us your input. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Okay, so we can start the meeting now. Election of chair, item 1. Mark.
Yep, I'd like to propose yourself, Councillor Lisa O'Donoghue, as chairman of planning for the next 12 months.
Thank you very much.
I'll second it.
I do second that.
Okay, is there any other nominations?
No.
Can't see any more hands up. Okay, so can we, sorry, who said something?
You're duly elected.
Oh, do we, no, we don't need to go
Unless
to a
we
vote.
go to a vote. Oh,
Should we go to a vote then? There's only me. Okay, those in favour of me. Okay, I think that is unanimous. It is.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so nomination of election of vice chair. I'd like to nominate Mark, Councillor Cole. Robin.
I'll second that.
Is there any other nominations? Can't see any more hands up. No. Okay, so Councillor Cole is Vice Chair.
You're going to need to go for a vote or not?
Yep, go for it. Vote for Mark, Vice Chair. Okay.
Yeah, that's unanimous.
Yeah, thank you. Can I
Thank you,
just say,
everyone.
can I just say thank you to Councillor Hyvans for being Vice Chair last year. You have been terrific, Paul. So thank you very much for being a very good Vice Chair.
Agreed.
Can I have that
Yeah.
minute? Can I have that minute as well, Nina, please? Thank you. Right, apologies for absence. Don't think we've got any, have we?
Just from Buckinghamshire Councillor Clare.
Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest, Robin?
Yeah, I ought to declare I'm a member of Buckinghamshire Fire Authority now, and I'm also a member of Buckinghamshire Council Planning Authority. It may vary how I act within the meeting.
Okay.
That needs to be recorded within the minutes.
Thank you.
It's important that it is.
No worries, we will do. Is there any other? Andy, Councillor Mahi?
Yes, I'm on the PPG for the swan practice.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? No, I think that's it. Okay, thank you, everybody. Minutes of the last meeting, copies circulated, has been circulated. Everybody happy?
Great.
Yep. Thank you. Item 6, COVID-19 update. Over to you, Paul Hodson.
Not much to say, to be honest. We put this on every agenda as a standard item. In terms of planning, I don't think there's anything to comment because planning is continuing pretty much as normal. We are Buckinghamshire Council, obviously affected by the things, but everybody's working at home and people are still putting in planning applications. So here we are. End of update.
So does anybody have any questions for Paul on COVID-19?
Nothing I can't email him about.
No. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Terms of reference, item 7.1, rights of way. Councillor Stutchbury?
Yeah, it was just a tidying up exercise, really. We've got so many developments and the town's growing, and rights of way and whatever is something perhaps we should take an interest in and look at and monitor within our own parish, obviously. And of course, we don't know how the town will change in period. And though we deal with it within an application, I think some parishes do feature on this more greatly than we have. And I think we should start to do that, especially as people now are probably using lots of them more than they ever have done. So they can get out and about and not only rights of way across their own land, other people's really.
So does everybody agree that they should be part of our terms of reference? Councillor Cole?
Yeah, I'll second that, particularly in view of what happened at Station Road last year. I mean, that really drew attention the need for immediate action on rights of way, and I think Robin's proposal is absolutely correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other hands up? No. Okay, so can we go to the vote on them being part of our terms of reference for the committee? I think that's unanimous.
Like
yeah.
John's hand.
Just to be clear, that will go to full council for decision. So the committee makes the recommendation to full council.
All right, thank you, Paul. Okay.
Just for information, that will go in the terms of reference to full council, not as a recommendation. Because we can amend our own terms of reference. For the terms of reference will go to full council to be recommended. That's not the recommendation to be discussed again. If it's not accepted in the terms of reference, then the town council can object to it in the terms of reference, but we have the right to amend our own terms of reference, which we have done. But it's that point, it won't be discussed as a separate item because it's already been agreed by the committee in their terms of reference to agree their own terms of reference. So if the council wants to object to it, they'll have to object to the terms of reference with it added, not the actual precise item.
You're looking puzzled, Paul.
Well, I mean, yes, in that it will come under the recommendation from the committee to amend the terms of reference, but full council decides what to delegate to committees. So if the committee wants additional, if it's, I'm not sure it is, but if it was the committee wanting additional stuff to be delegated, then full council has to agree to that.
Discuss it after.
Okay, all right, let's move on.
If I may, Chairman.
Sorry,
Martin.
And John.
Martin, and then John.
Is there a what's the way of listing rights of way? Do we have a list of them? I mean, as Councillor Stutchby said, they are being used so much more these days at the moment, and are also being well trodden down as well, which was always the problem in the past, that the Ramblers Association were using them to keep them open and active across various lands. But is there a way that these things are have designations against them?
Yeah, Paul, you can answer that, but I do think we've got a list of them, haven't we?
We've got a map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Councillor White, if he could speak, would probably tell you it's fully available on the list of the county's highways, and the list is fully available. But he sat there and had to speak, so I'll say what Warren's going to say if he was able to speak.
We definitely have a list of them for sure.
But also, it's part of our devolved services to keep them clear of brambles and stuff.
Yeah. Councillor Harvey.
Mine is about the next point on the agenda, actually, to talk about other changes to the terms of reference. So I'll talk then when we've dealt with this item.
Okay, I think we have dealt with this item, so I'm happy to move to 7.2, terms of reference to discuss any proposed changes. So, John, would you like to speak first?
Yeah, I think it's time that we deleted chairman and vice chairman from these terms of reference. As I understand it, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission recommend that, you know, documents like this really don't need to have such terms. They're anachronistic, they're sexist, they're discriminatory, and so on. And it's a small thing just to delete chairman and vice chairman and simply always have chair and vice chair. These are commonly used words now, and I think it's about time the town council caught up with modern day.
I actually remember us discussing this about 3 or 4 years ago, and I think there was some kind of agreement then. I'll come to Geraldine first.
I just don't like the title chair. It's an item to sit on. I don't object to being female, being a chairman.
Good point. Robin?
Well, can I suggest chairperson? And then take it to make it a recommendation to council on that basis, and let council decide. Because if we can't change one set of things, and I understand where John's coming from. It is activist, you know, that it always should be a man. It's not always going to be a man, and maybe somebody could come up with a better term than that. But if I just say it can go to council and be discussed, second it with an amendment, chairperson.
Yeah, Geraldine, then John.
I think chairman was a term. It wasn't male or specifically. It is just the term we use.
John and then Mark.
Yeah, there were lots of terms we've used in the past, of course, but we don't refer to policemen anymore. We talk about police officers. We don't talk about firemen. We talk about firefighters. There are plenty of words we use in current usage that are quite adequate and are recognisable because this is the world we live in. We live in a world which should be demanding equality of the sexes and so forth. And chairman is anachronistic, it's out of date, and we need to dispense with it now. I'm happy to go with chairperson. I think it's a bit clunky, frankly, but if that's what we can compromise on, then I'll go with that. But honestly, we've got to get rid of chairman and vice chairman. And I don't like it, chairman. I don't like vice chairman. We can't make decisions on the basis of of what is correct in terms of what we like and don't like. It's what is right for society right now.
Before I bring Mark in, just want to say that as a female, I have no problem with chairman, because like Geraldine was saying, it's just a word. I don't see it as being a sexist thing at all. I don't have an issue with it, but you know, maybe I'm a minority. Mark?
Yeah, I beg to differ from John, because chairman is a position, it's not a person. Throughout the courts, throughout Parliament, you have chairman of committees, you have chairman of benches, and these are very old. You know, these are steeped in history. They're nothing to do with the sex of the person. They are positions. And as Geraldine said, I wouldn't want to be called chair. You know, I'd find that quite insulting. So I believe we should leave it as it is.
Yeah, I kind of second that, because like I said, I don't see a sexist thing in it. To me, it's a, yeah. Okay, is anybody else that wanted to speak? Paul Hirons.
Yeah, two things. First of all, surely this is a full council decision. It isn't one for subcommittee to decide on something major like that. And my personal view is I'd support Geraldine. A chair is a piece of furniture. It's usually made of a thick piece of wood, which I don't think is a good start for what we're looking for in the leader of a committee.
Nicely put there, Paul.
We're all sat on one, Paul.
Yeah, and I do think chairperson is a bit of a mouthful, to be honest. But right, John, I'll let you have the last word, and then we'll take this.
Okay. Well, obviously, I'm surrounded by people who don't really care about this sort of matter. I care about an equal world, and I care about language, and I care about how language is implicitly sexist. But if the rules of the committee are that it doesn't matter, then fine. But I care about this deeply, and I'm a man, and I care about equality too.
Geraldine, final word.
I very much care about equality, and I think this should go to full council, not to be discussed.
No, you don't.
Yeah. All right. Can we go to a vote on taking this to full council?
Chairman.
Sorry, who's?
Oh, Andy's popped up.
Oh, sorry, Andy. Go on.
We're really trying to change the English language here. So you might as well then not use the word blackmail, because I could say it's racist. You know, you can go on and on and on, and there'll never be a stop to it. It is what it is. It is in the English language. Let's go with it.
Well, I'm going to take to the vote that we discussed this at full council, not here.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay. Martin, did you have your hand up to vote, or? No.
Sorry,
right,
is that an amendment to my proposal?
Right. What is your proposal then, John?
I'm proposing that we change our terms of reference and remove all reference to chairman. That's my proposal.
Okay, and that was amended by you, Geraldine, was it? With you wanted chairperson?
It's not been seconded.
Oh, okay.
It's not been seconded.
Needs a seconder.
Very true.
We need a seconder.
I thought Councillor Stutchby had seconded that.
I seconded it. It was an amendment for chairperson to allow it.
Okay, I accept that amendment.
No, we seconded that amendment, so it doesn't go anywhere.
No, it doesn't. Okay,
sorry, I'm accepting that change, Councillor Stutchby. I'm proposing that we remove all reference to chairman and insert instead chairperson or vice chairperson.
Well, that can then be discussed at full council, and we can have a full blood discussion about whether we're all sexist or not. But I do think that we have to recognise the world's moving on, and it's about time. I remember Councillor Neil discussing it, who's been mayor of this town twice,
yeah.
And she was very adamant that she didn't want to be called chairman, and
yeah.
I think they were raised it the first time. So
yeah, but we have discussed it 3 or 4 times. But can we go to a vote that this goes to full council to be discussed? Those who agree that this goes to full council to be discussed. 1, 2, 3.
I'm sorry, Chair,
oh.
but this is not what we've agreed. I've agreed that my proposal is that it should be turned from chairman into chairperson. When did this other idea come forward about?
Oh,
we have to vote on that amendment first and then vote on the substantive motion.
John, you dropped out for a minute then.
Okay, can you still hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I have accepted the motion that we should change it to chairperson. Is that what Councillor Stutchby is supporting, or is he saying that comes with a rider that it should go back to full council?
Yeah,
I'm supporting it, but I'm supporting it because it automatically goes back to full council because it's a change.
All right.
So we don't need to ask it to go back to full council because if we agree, it automatically goes back there because it affects other committees. So we don't need to then ask for it to go back because it will go back anyway. And if the majority don't like it, they don't like it.
Are we asking the words to be changed from chairman to chairperson or not? It'll automatically go back to full council. That's the motion that we're being put on at the moment. So if you'll vote in favour of that, we change the words in our terms of reference and take that back to full council.
Okay, so hands up who agrees with these changes.
We haven't got a seconder.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. Councillor Stutchby.
But with a rider, his seconding is different to your motion.
No, it's not. I've accepted chairperson.
Okay, are we ready to vote now? Those who agree. All right, Nina, do you want to read?
Can we have a recorded vote as well, Chair, please? I want a recorded vote on this.
All right, can we have your motion re-read out by Nina, please, with the amendment?
Well, it's very simply proposed by Councillor Harvey, seconded by Councillor Stutchby, to change the terms of reference for planning committee, removing all references to chairman and vice chairman, and in place inserting chairperson and vice chairperson.
Thank you very much. Okay, those who agree, hands up, please. 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2.
We're having a recorded vote, Lisa.
Yeah, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Stutchby.
Yeah, literally. Okay, those who disagree.
Councillors Collins, Cole, Hirons, Try, Ralph and Mahi.
And Cole.
And me.
And Cole, yeah. Oh, and Donahue.
And
so
sorry, Paul.
No abstentions, is it?
Any abstentions? No, no abstentions.
Only in the agenda, Chairman. Oh, that's it.
Okay, right, we're going to move on then. Okay, so neighbourhood development plan, Aylesbury plan. Sorry,
Chairman. Another comment on the terms of reference. Could I take advice from the town clerk? In our normal terms of reference, there's items in there about chairman's exercising a casting vote, or is that covering all other terms of reference, or do we put it in each one because it's not in this one?
Oh,
it would be tidier to put it in this one, but the fact it's in standing orders covers all committees.
So
Okay.
do members want this wording added into to our one, or are they happy with standing orders covering it all?
Standing orders will do.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that in standing orders, the chairman has to vote, the second vote.
Yeah, but if Martin's allowed to ask, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's just that it doesn't ripple through. There's nothing that says, you know, they take precedence over individual committee ones, or that, you know, we have to abide by those first. So I was just trying to see where the land lies, really.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your question.
Well,
I'm going to move on.
The reason actually for asking was that in our own standing orders, it says they can have the casting vote, but it doesn't actually say what happens if they don't take that casting vote and it still is stalemate. But I'll bring that up at full council when we review our standing orders, if they're an overarching standing order for this committee as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Can I move on now, please?
Councillor Rapp still got his hand up.
Oh, who has?
Anthony.
Anthony, sorry.
That's all right. Can you hear me now? Because I've been playing since we last spoke. Excuse me. I'd like to propose that we insert into the standing orders the fact that we would like to be able to co-opt members from outside bodies as and when it is appropriate, and that could be on a continuing basis or a one-off basis, and not to give specific names or even specific organisations, but to allow us to do that so that it does regularise things as they stand at the moment, like the Buckingham Society co-option. It then tidies that away, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's a sensible thing to add in. Do other members agree?
Yes.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. Robin, you got your hand up.
Yeah, it was a decision years ago that they were the first organisation that we offered a co-option to, and it must have been drafting. It must have somehow slipped out of our standing orders for the committee. Next, there was other co-options on other committees latterly, but it was the planning committee because it seemed ridiculous at the time that the Buckingham site would turn up to a meeting and unable to take part in it when they were offering a lot of work. So I don't know how it got out of the planning committee standing orders. I think it predates the present town clerk and probably whatever, but it used to be in there because I remember us having a large discussion whether the Buckingham Society should have it and not that they would have a place at the table but not a vote, and we had a long discussion about it historically. So how it got out of it, I don't know.
Okay, but that's fine. We can add it back in.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, technically, it's a minuted decision of council to allow the Buckingham Society to be a member of the committee. So that's a kind of, it stands. And the council standing orders allow committees to include non-councillors. In fact, an advisory committee or a subcommittee could be completely non-councillors. It's certainly kind of within the standing orders for that to be the case as well. But again, it would be tidier to specifically state in the terms of reference.
Can we have a show of hands to agree to that, please?
That unanimous? Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Can we now move on? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan. Has everybody read the Town Plan Officer's report? Thank you, Sheena, for putting that together. Much appreciated. It's nice to know that we are still the only locally made plan and that other developers should be taking notice of that, but clearly they don't. Does anybody have any questions for Sheena? Robin and then Mark.
Clearly, had things been different, this would have been an elected council in this year. We had discussions about setting up small working parties to discuss, you know, elements to go into an emerging local plan. I know that the district plan isn't in place, which will obviously be the Buckinghamshire Council plan, but I still think we should at least start scoping out some thoughts around what would happen, where we would do things, how we might see the town change or not change, or who would we want to be involved in that. I know that we had discussions and the previous mayor, to his credit, has been having discussions with other parishes. I think we need to at least keep those discussions going and not formulate a view, but try to build up a bigger group of people going forward, because it's going to be devil's own job last time, wasn't it, with the plan, when it sort of various reasons we had 2 goes at it. The second go wasn't not because of our fault, but I think we need to start building up who wants to be involved in it in a month or so's time. So hopefully when we come out of coronavirus lockdown, we're in a position where we've done the bed work, so we can start working on it. It may be that the council, Buckinghamshire Council, knows its position by then, and we can start working together to try and find how we formulate it. We, you know, because it's going to be a big job and it's going to take quite a bit of time, and there's an awful lot of prejudices around it. But we do need a good team of people, and maybe the Buckingham Society were marvellous last time, but there might be other people in the community, other organisations who are equally interested now, just to have some sort of big steer on it, because the plan's got to pass approval locally, so we need to make sure it's approved by local people beforehand, really.
Well, I think we do have a committee group, haven't we, Paul?
No, let me explain myself. I'm saying that we've got a committee group, but we need to think about how we go outside that committee group to grow the conversation around it. The timing of that isn't specific. We've got obviously the virus to deal with. We've got to know what happens with the emerging, what was a Vale plan and where that sits. But I do think we need to, we had the Buckingham Society and ourselves and one or two others, and maybe open the gate a little bit to, we discussed it before, like we might want some of the unitary members to come involved in it, because they may bring something to the table which we don't have, about information. And after all, they're going to live in the town anyway, so they'd want to influence it, one would have thought. In the end, it'll be the town council's decision, but we need to take everybody with us, you know.
Yeah, that's fine, not a problem with that. Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, just to answer Robin, that's exactly what we're doing. That's what the group is doing. We have a brief to bring in everyone we think can help us, which is why we've been visiting other parish councils, talking to other towns like Winslow. We have the ear of Buckingham. We will have the ear for the Buckinghamshire Council members, and that's what we put our trust in Sheena to do. She's bringing that all together. But the question I was going to ask Sheena, thank you very much for coming tonight. You say in your report in item 2 about limited weight that can be given to VALP even at this stage. We've been told time and time again that the draft VALP does not carry weight, although the evidence base that sits behind it can be given weight. Could you just clarify that? Because obviously at the moment the Buckingham Neighbourhood Development Plan is the overarching plan for Buckingham, isn't it?
All right, hopefully this is working. Yes, good, thank you. Yes, basically the developers, if it were in their advantage, will try and argue that the plan is almost there. Yes, the evidence behind it could be used if they wanted to use it, but it's a question of how much weight would be given to that. In particular, the area that I think you're probably we are working on at the moment is making sure that we've got more up-to-date, robust evidence about the affordable housing situation in Buckingham, because that's probably where it's people are going to make questions about our 35% policy. That still stands, but obviously there will be an argument that, oh, well, VALP is going to change that, and because they've got the evidence base. So that is one of the things. So yes, the evidence is there. That's the more up-to-date evidence that's standing behind it, which would probably be part of the discussion. But the plan itself would carry, as you're saying, I would go as far as saying slight weight. I wouldn't say it's got absolutely no weight at all now, because to a certain extent, they've already said that Buckingham neighbourhood development plans that are about to be made carry weight in the planning process. So I would be a little bit cautious, but assuming that VALP would have no weight at all at the moment.
Thank you.
All right, Paul Hirons and then Carolyn.
Sorry, there's 2 points that I would like to make. First of all, the fact that they're talking about VALP actually needing to go to another public consultation, possibly because of the very large change in the development on the edge of Milton Keynes, which wasn't in their proposal. And if they have to do that, it's going to be some long time before VALP really is ready for preparation, you know, a much bigger change than they originally thought. The other thing is, of course, all the time, our neighbourhood development plan is getting older. And as it gets older, it's more difficult to defend, regardless of other plans and all the rest of it. It's more difficult to say, oh, well, it's based on the most up-to-date information, because because it's old, it isn't based, you know, it's based on what we had 7 years ago or whatever. Wasn't it 2013 that it started. So if we've got, so it isn't going to be very strong. So we've really pulled both ways, because in a lot of ways I would rather we didn't push this until VALP was available, because as soon as we've got it and VALP comes through, they're going to say, you know, it is supposed to be, our plant is supposed to be in conformity, isn't those the words, with the with VALP. So, you know, we've got to be, we're on a sort of a bit of a tightrope here, which is going to be very difficult for us to stay on. So we're up to date with VALP. VALP's likely to have big changes, but ours is also getting older and therefore going to carry less weight because it's just because of its age. Tricky, really.
Sheena, did you want to come back on anything?
I don't think so. I think what Paul's saying is very true. I think we need to, if we're working towards the new plan, we will be building an evidence base that will be useful in terms of challenging any planning applications that, you know, that we are not particularly, the council doesn't particularly want, and that will be useful information to say, well, we have got more up-to-date information that we could deal with. So yes, point taken. I think also the timing is going to be crucial, because as Paul was saying, what's going to happen is that if we make a plan and then VALP makes a plan, VALP will take precedence over us. So it's going to be a matter of timing, I think, as well.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Carolyn?
Yes, if I can just come in partly wearing a Maids Morton hat, in that I know Sheena mentioned in her report that she was thinking of the housing needs survey for Buckingham and surrounding area. Maids Morton is putting together a neighbourhood plan, and obviously a housing needs survey could be of use to the outlying villages, which is what I imagine Sheena has in mind. Is that going to be imminent, or is it something that's some time away?
It's not going to be within the next month or two. We want to do consultation, obviously, to find out that that's something that obviously we suspect it is, but we want to ensure that it is something that's very important to the residents as well. And then it will be a case of the available evidence, and locality can also help with that kind of assessment. So it would not be immediate. I'm hoping we would maybe have some idea by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Martin?
Thank you. Sorry, so many screens here. I keep on pushing on the wrong one. How detailed, and sorry for my lack of knowledge here, Sheena, how detailed is the town centre part of our plan? And if it isn't, do we need to subdivide it into smaller areas within the town centre because things are happening in our town centre?
We defined, before I came on board with the original project, the town centre boundaries had been defined by consultation. And we've got the primary and secondary retail areas. One of the questions that I have posed, given the development out to the west, is whether or not that should be, we should look at the town centre boundaries again to begin with, what we consider to be the town centre. I know Councillor Warren had a view that the west was a separate area, not part of the town centre. So that's obviously open to discussion, perhaps in consultation. But yes, I think there is now, we might want to look quite closely at what we define as primary and secondary retail, because things are moving so quickly in that area. And secondly, we might want to look at the percentages that we had set about the usage within the primary retail, because there's obviously quite a lot of things that are coming out now that retail shops per se are changing on the town centre, and what the invite, what brings people in to town centre is not necessarily just the traditional A1 retail shops. And it may well be that 2015 we were wanting to retain that independent retail rather than purely services. It may now be that the current advice is that, well, with online shopping and everything else, that is changing the nature of the town centre. So I think it is going to be one of the areas that was being referenced about this idea of getting idea of maybe a focus group. We've got the Economic Development Working Group that are looking at that sort of thing as well. So I want to very much build on that as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, is there any other hands? Oh, Robin?
Yeah, firstly, we shouldn't worry about poor our plan being old, because the district plan's 204. So that's the only plan in place there. So ours is 2013. So it's somewhat generationally younger than theirs that they're having to work with. One of the things we need to think in this emerging world we're going to live in is, of course, High Wycombe's got SIL. We presently haven't got SIL in Buckingham area, what was the historical district area. The way that SIL works to the way Section 106 works is quite different. In some ways, SIL's a bit more beneficial to the town council as you get money from it. And also it tends to address some of the broad infrastructure problems that individual Section 106 don't really, because they're quite prescriptive to the development, aren't they? Where SIL's a bit more whatever. So we might need to do some understanding around the timing that we might have SIL from the new authority. Presumably they're going to deliver that to us at some point. And we've also got to, our plan, of course, got 35% in it, affordable. The emerging Vale plan's got 25% affordable. And High Wycombe's got quite a lot more affordable, probably 40 to 45%, I think, or something. And they've got SIL. And they're the only ones with a made plan. And of course, the Chilterns and South Bucks are, at this point in time, not necessarily too happy with Slough. So we need to try to at least get the question about what's the view of the new authority on how they're going to work SIL. Are they going to resist us greatly if we include the affordable numbers? Because this policy, which was set by the district council, wasn't the policy of Buckinghamshire Council. So we shouldn't sort of say it's their policy. They've inherited it. And if we are going to put higher affordability numbers in there, we're going to need the support of the officers of the new authority to actually do that, because they're going to have lots of the information we need. Just asking everybody around the town centre, do you want more affordable housing? Probably won't do it. So we need to put a robust case, else it won't, we revised by Sheena some months back that once we do an emerging plan, we would only be able to put 25% in it unless we could set up our own validate our own houses numbers in the town and parish. And I think with the work that Mark's done out in the parishes and looking at it, if we were going to do a wider plan, including them, maybe we could get somewhere close to it, because we've definitely got an income problem, haven't we? And houses and people not being able to afford to buy them, and the 25% affordable is going to be a burr to everybody going forward, I'm afraid. But we do need to get the evidence for it. And I know Sheena says she's looking at it, and Caroline says, when do you think that will be, and whatever. I just want to know where we are with that, because there's all those elements that we are out of our control. Still, we don't know when it will be delivered, and everything else. A lot of it's not in our control. We're at the bottom of the heap when it comes to that.
Well, starting with SIL, the town clerk and I have discussed this on several occasions, and he's obviously been discussing with Buckinghamshire Council. I think that's not going to be something that they're going to look at until they themselves bring in a local plan. So it'll be the sort of plan after VALP. Obviously, what's going to happen in terms of the timing of VALP, etc., we don't know. So that is being looked at. The affordable housing question, yeah, not by any means meaning that I'm just asking the people in the town, but it's always a point where you want to sort of say, yes, this was generated by the local residents. I think going outside to the villages is a good idea, because they are going to look to Buckingham to a certain extent to be providing some of the housing that's not going to happen in the villages, unless of course you're Maids Morton. So I think, yes, and yeah, we're working on that. At the moment, obviously during lockdown, what you could get from people was limited. I was going with, to a certain extent, what's available online, but yeah, it's one of the priorities coming out of this.
Thank you, Sheena. Is there anybody else that would like to ask Sheena a question or talk about the plan?
I think we should minute our thanks to what she's doing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Agreed.
Agreed, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. I think we're safe to move on to the next item. So 9.1, we have action reports, Appendix B. If anybody wishes to say anything on any of the item, well, we'll say page 1. Is there anything on page 1 that anybody's got to speak about? No, no hands up. Page 2, anything? No, can't see any hands up. So everybody's happy with the action report then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Right. So 9.2, parked car. Everybody's read the letter, I assume, Appendix C. Yeah. Does anybody have any comments on it?
I think this has been overtaken by events, Madam Chairman. So
Yeah.
hasn't been there for a long time.
Yeah. I can't see any hands up, so.
Is it gone then?
Oh, the car's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to come back though, isn't it? It's obviously nobody's going to be able to do anything about it according to the letter. All right. Okay. Planning applications. So our first one is 5 The Villas. Now, Una wrote a letter, and she doesn't have any technology at all. So I didn't know if members wanted me to read the letter out, or if everybody has read the letter, how do we want to do this one?
Lisa, it might be better to read the letter out for the sake of people watching as well.
Okay. Okay, so right, The Villas, Stratford Road, Buckingham. History. Before this application is considered, all previous applications must be considered, because there are many outstanding features for planning regulations have and are being breached. The applicant has never considered adjoining residential properties to the site, number 6, 8, 10, 14, 16, 18, 20, and oh, she's put 20 again, Wharfside Place. Plans go back to 2008, application 2009, 09-0207-APP. Number 1, fences. Fences to be erected around the whole site. This did not happen. Instead, Wharfside fences have been used. These fences have been damaged by overgrown vegetation, overhanging trees and shrubs, ivy climbing up trees, and wearing out panels. The landscaping has never happened. Number 2, flood prevention. Floods in 1998 and 2007 covered the whole of the site from the villas at the backs of 22, 20, 18, 16, 14, and houses 6, 8, 10 Wolfside Place were severely damaged. The floods came from the BP garage to land at the back of the villas and 22 Wolfside Place, which forms part of the whole site. Car parking number 3. 6 parking places had to be provided, 2 for each, number 3, 4, 5 the villas, 4 parking lots on gravel car park and 2 in the garage, which is now under 3A the villas. No cars can use this space as the floor is 20 centimetres above the gravel of the car park. Number 4, bins. The bins for 3A, 4 and 5 the villas are kept in the front gardens facing the Stratford Road. This area was part of the landscaped garden. Number 5, access. The only access to 3A, 4 and 5 for pedestrians is through the arch, with 3 the villas above and cars too. Construction works caused considerable disturbance because lorries and delivering vehicles cannot get through the arch and cause traffic hold-ups and tailbacks in the Stratford Road. There is still build material and other rubbish that was never removed but left on site when 3A was completed and occupied in May 2019. This app for an extension to 5 the villas, which is a 4-bedroom semi at the end of the block of land on which 3 the villas, which was 3 the villas. Comments on proposed plans 20-01240-APP. Note the unusable garage is clearly marked on ground floor plans of 3A the villas. The extension looks like a lean-to stuck behind a wall in very close proximity to traffic on the Stratford Road, down a bank with no footpath, just a rough verge. No consideration has been given to how close this is to the immediate neighbours of 6 and 8 Wolfside Place. Their outlook will be roof, wall and blank wall to 5B, their fences still being used as the boundary. This land should have formed part of the landscaped garden, which forms part of the natural soakaway, which is an integral part of the flood prevention scheme. 4 and 5 the villas, it appears, no, hold on. 4 and 5 the villas were constructed a metre or more above ground level, and it appears the extension would be built likewise. In time of flood, the villas would be safe, but more water could flow towards 6, 8 and 10 Wolfside Place. Trees and hedges on the site will need attention. They're overgrown in places, taking light and casting shade in some Wolfside Place properties as they're growing very close to fences. Interior plans. These are very strange, as the plans show there will be 5 living rooms, 5 WCs and 3 bedrooms. This was a 4-bedroom semi, therefore with only 3 bedrooms, there is no need for the lounge or family room extension. Okay, that's the end of the letter. Okay, let me just go back to the agenda and notes. Right, so members' comments, please. Carolyn, Martin, Paul, let's take you first. Carolyn, you can go first.
Am I going first? The Society do not like this application at all. And I certainly think that Una's points are all extremely relevant. What I don't know is how relevant our previous planning history, because we all know the whole history of this site has been a disaster from start to finish. As far as this application goes, it's a really bulky extension. It doesn't show any friendliness to the neighbours at all. And given the frontage of the villas, which still have a slightly livelier 1920s appearance, it completely ruins the street scene. But I think our main objection is on the bulk of this extension, unless we can throw previous failures to abide by previous decisions at the planning officers? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, Martin and then Paul.
Thank you. Well, just picking up on Carolyn's point there. Yes, the failures to do other items that were detailed in previous planning permissions, I think we ought to address and incorporate that in our submission to be rectified prior to this being started. And really, it's my old thing, but on a much smaller scale. It's planning creepage, isn't it? It could have all been thought of at the same time, but this has just crept along little by little, adjusting things as they go. So I think it's now got to a state of possible overdevelopment and street scene change, you know, with that slanted roof, as Carolyn had said there, that it's sort of out of character from, although they're new build there, it's slightly out of character with that slanting roof on. I would also like to see, now that we have learned from other places and have also had issues here in the past, of a building delivery plan to state how they would organise and manage the deliveries at certain times of day and by certain sizes of lorries as well, because building something like that will have a disruption to that road, which is quite busy at certain times.
Absolutely. Thank you, Martin. Right, Paul next.
Yeah, well, most of my points have been agreed by the previous two, not agreed, been said by the previous two speakers. But I would like to say, I just think it's a very undistinguished design for the main entrance into Buckingham. They could have done a lot better without spending a lot of money. I would have thought definitely that we ought to insist that they carry out the various smaller items that were agreed in the previous planning applications on this site, and that it's only after those have been, they've agreed to address those, that we can really talk about them doing this work. Because having a garage which is a foot or something above the ground level, so it's unusable, isn't exactly, in my opinion, meeting the requirement of providing two garages. So it's up in the air. I suppose, I don't know what you use it for. But whichever, it needs, I think we need to complain about or insist that those things are dealt with. And that I think overall, though, as everyone said, it messes up the street scene, it's overdevelopment, and we need the previous things done. Thank you.
Can I just ask, Anthony, you wanted to share your screen to show some photos, but I don't know if you've got them available. I did send an email round earlier from one of the neighbours. Are you able to show those 4 photographs as well, or should I ask Paul Hodson to do that?
I can certainly show you the one I've shown previously and get us started, and then we can take it from there. So here we go, sharing screen. Oh no, it's disabled. Can I be enabled, please? No, still the host. Who's the host? Who's the hostess with the mostest?
Paul.
There we go. This was taken from Street View, and it was this that I was concentrating on at that point, was that this was supposed to be put back to looking much more like it was before this was started on, and yet it's never been dealt with, and consequently I thought it was an enforcement issue, and surely if people haven't dealt with their enforcement issues, they really shouldn't be allowed to have further planning applications on the same site. But I'll be guided by wiser heads. This is a picture of the gentleman's conservatory and how close it is to the existing house wall, and all this greenery is in the space, is growing in the space where it is proposed the extension is put. And as others have said here, this double column indicates the difference between this curtilage and that curtilage. So certainly it's fairly oppressive, I would say.
Mm.
Okay, now if I hop back so you can all see each other, I'll have a rootle about and find those other photos.
Thank you.
They're on my other computer, you see, so I'll see if they've arrived on this computer.
Well, if not, then town clerk could do it.
Well, if I could ask the town clerk, I'll be greatly obliged.
You're muted, Paul.
I've got them on my laptop. Have they changed the share screen setting? Share screen. Oh no, here we go. Windows.
So these photos are from Alan Edmondson, and he's at number 8 Wharfside Place. So he sent us 4 photographs.
Is that the same one again?
Yep.
That's a new one.
A different one.
Yep.
Okay, so he's put on that one, showing exit door, visible to door handle.
Where's that one gone?
Had that one.
That one.
I'm only seeing half of a photograph here.
Oh,
Right, so that shows how close the house is to the number 8 fence panel. That's incredibly close already, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there one more?
I think there was 4 in total. Oh, it's a garage showing a curb. Yeah, that's one that we haven't seen. Can you scroll?
You can see this. You can see the step up into the garage there, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're saying that that's a usable garage.
It's just a bit from flooding.
Yeah. But Una said that they were like some of the residents were just using it to go out there and smoke. That's all it was being used for. Mark?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chairman, if I could ask Catherine, is it proposed to retain the wall onto Stratford Road?
It's not clear, but it doesn't say anything about not retaining it.
Okay, so it'll be behind the wall then. That's what I'm thinking, likely to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Robin, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I've listened to the discussion. I'm not going to vote on this one. I'm going to wait until such time as I get to vote on it, so it can be recorded that I haven't voted on it. The reason I'm saying this is because we could get down to planning, and if I've commented here and somebody picks up I've commented in planning, they'll get it by default, and I wouldn't want that. So if Neely can record, I'm abstaining from voting on this, and I'm observing on this application. I think we don't know where we are with the new rules.
Yeah.
what we got, how we're going to work, and let's not get these things wrong at the onset.
Yeah. No, it's a very fair comment, Robin. Yeah. Okay, so no other comments, no other hands. Right, so if I get the feeling right, we're going to object to this. The parking issues, the delivery vehicles, the lorries, where are they going to park? There's no strategy for that. Overdevelopment of the plot. There's no parking for any visitors of the property. We've still got flooding concerns, and issues from the previous applications haven't been addressed. So can they form part of this somehow? And we asked our members to call this one in down at Buckinghamshire Council. Is that agreed?
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well done.
Yeah. 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 Agreed. Thank you very much, everybody. Right. So 10.2, the Buckingham Primary Care Centre, Community Hospital High Street. So outline planning permission for up to 8 dwellings. We've had the letter that was circulated. Members' comments. I can see Mark's hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah.
And Caroline.
In 2018, a 400 signature petition was raised by Mrs. June Langley on Page Hill, calling on Swan Surgery to keep some form of consultation room, stroke pharmacy, stroke nurse room in the town centre. To their credit, we've heard from George Gabriel tonight that the Swan practice remains committed to providing a town centre presence, but it still leaves a lot of unanswered questions. If they're going to move the bulk of the patients up to Lace Hill, there's going to be a lot of problems. There'll be problems not only for people in Buckingham, but the problem from people from surrounding villages. And I note, although you can't speak, Pat Cardhassel is here tonight. Pat, and I know you've expressed concerns about residents getting in from the villages into the centre of town, then having to get a bus up to Lace Hill. There's 5 objections by residents to this. They're all people who live close by. Buckinghamshire Council, Warren White, has also raised the sloping nature of the site, and the fact that they're going to be 2-storey houses will elevate them even more. We're in a conservation area. It's surrounded by listed houses, and the heritage aspect of it is going to be quite damaged from what we're looking at. Heritage themselves have asked for a delay until after the lockdown so that they can reconsider, they can revisit the site, because they're not happy with what they've seen at the moment. The local flood authority is objecting. There's insufficient SUDS information at the moment, and quite generally at the moment there is concern that we might need to get them to call this back in and represent it as a full planning application, not an outline application, because at the moment the way they're presenting it doesn't meet good planning guidance.
Thank you. Right, Carolyn, I think you were next.
Well, I think Councillor Coe has actually said most of what the society was feeling at the time, particularly with the conservation area and listed buildings right adjacent to these sites, neither of which have been addressed at all in this very bare outline application. And although we're pleased to hear Dr. Gabriel say that there will be some health presence in the town, it's not good enough to just have this vague idea of a health presence in the town without some detail behind it. Replacing a hugely valuable resource within the town centre is not only bad for residents and villagers coming into the town, but also for the town's economy as such. And all these issues are terribly relevant to the well-being of Buckingham. But the outline application, such as it is simply too short on information. It needs much fuller detail on particularly the historic areas. And I hate to say this, but the design of the buildings as outlined are shocking. So that's our view.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. Andy's next.
And John.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman. we really can keep going on about this one for years and years, objecting to some form of not the lay sale not happening. Either we want world-class surgery in Buckingham, or we can carry on with this for the next 5 years, as we already have done. I know about the people not being able to get into Buckingham from the rest of the villages, but they are still doing so at the moment. Now, we can, as I said, we can go on and on about this one. They have to sell these properties to be able to afford to build lay sale. It's a partnership with CCG. They've put the money in, and the rest is put in by CCG. Now, I don't want to be here in the next 5 years. We're still discussing this, and we still don't have lay sale surgery.
Okay, John, you were next, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the question of the town clerk through you, Chair. Could we register both of these properties as assets of community value?
Did we not attempt to register one of them a while ago before my time?
The community hospital.
Yeah.
No, before the community hospital, we tried.
It was the hospital. Yeah.
But before that, we tried something else, I believe. And obviously, with the hospital, that was turned down on the basis that a hospital doesn't count as a community asset in the context of that legislation.
Yeah.
So the chances of a surgery being any different to that, I'd say, are fairly slim, but we could have a go.
Could we look into it?
I'm happy to look into it.
I mean, just to follow up to that point is I think the objections to the planning applications have to be on planning terms. You know,
yes.
Because although none of us wants to lose these health assets from the centre of our town, the fact of the matter is that's not an argument against the planning application. And in that sense, Dr. Gabriel was correct. He's also saying it's an AOP, and I forget what AOP stands for. Perhaps Catherine can advise, but basically it's a stake in the ground, isn't it? I mean, the actual buildings that might eventually get built there, if it goes through, could be very different. I mean, I'd take the view that if we're looking at Verney Close, that's an ideal location on stilts, it has to be said, for some supported housing. Centre of town would be great for some people who need to be near the centre of town and so forth. And I know there are some plans afoot to try and put some sort of health facility, consulting room or something in the development of the library space. But again, I guess it's about sequencing here. I guess it would have been helpful if some of those plans had been extant and agreed and proposed when we came to look at this. But I come back to my central point is we have to object to this, if we do object to this, on planning grounds. We can't do it on the grounds of overall strategy for the town, I don't think, but I'm happy to be advised otherwise.
No, I think you're right, John. It just needs to be on planning grounds, because otherwise Buckinghamshire Council will just throw it out and will agree it. So if we are objecting, it does need to be done properly. Paul Hirons, you're muted, Paul.
One thing which is a planning ground is that there is very little parking in the existing facilities. You know, there's always people going round and round down the bottom of Verney Close trying to find somewhere to park. We need, you know, the current buildings are not fit for purpose, really. And so I'd very much like to see they go somewhere else. Now, whether it isn't really a planning reason, but unless they can sell this, we're never going to get a new one. It's as simple as that. But I think the parking situation at both the existing ones is very, very difficult. And it's even worse now, because don't forget, they've now charged in the car park for the hospital, so that if you're going to North End, you have to pay. Well, the people we're talking about, plus I still think there's more and more people going to be in other developments where this just isn't really an appropriate place to be. If you live up Lace Hill, if you live up, what are those two called, up the Tinchwick Road, you know, this isn't really a sensible place at all to have the plant in the centre of the town. So I think in from that planning reason, they just make a lot of traffic going in there, and the parking is difficult, which are both planning reasons. So I think I would support doing this, even if I see what other people say.
I mean, Martin, earlier he found on planning controls for conservation areas and listed buildings, there is a bit in there that in conservation areas, outline planning permission will not normally be accepted because without full details, we cannot judge the impact of any development proposal. And then it gives a list of, you know, what they would seek. But it is a difficult one because we all want a new health centre. But if, you know, they're still going to provide some form of service in the town, then that is meeting people halfway. Right, Andy had his hand up, Martin.
If
And
we're
Robin.
going to go for a vote, I want a recorded vote on this one, please, Madam Chairman.
Not a problem with that, Andy. All right, Martin and then Robin.
Yeah, as Dr. George Gavriel said, this is selling of the land or redevelopment of the land from a planning point of view, not a medical services strategy, although it probably feeds into that, and that's what we've all been debating here. But as people have said, we need to decide on a planning side of things here. And although we may all have comments about whether the surgery ought to be in town or out of town, this particular application, 20-01332, is about North End surgery. And as we all know, anybody can apply for planning permission on anybody's piece of ground. You don't have to own it, but so there's a quirk there. But there's two things here. First is, are they allowed to apply for an outline planning permission? And as we have seen, there is indication that normally outlining planning permissions are not allowed in conservation areas. It does say normally, doesn't say always, or never. And the other one is the change of use. And I don't know whether there is inherent in this, Catherine, maybe the change of use as well, because obviously that has to go hand in hand with this sort of outline planning permission.
Yeah, it is certainly assumed. I did check your quote, which doesn't come from a government source, it comes from a commercial source of planning guidance. But however, I have checked the Act and the government guidance on planning in conservation areas. And all it says is you must provide sufficient information. Now, if we've just got the sketch outlines of 8 houses with no indication of height, design, or anything like that, that's inadequate information.
Right.
Because an outline plan is basically, yes, it's a sketch. The other thing we can say is that it's going to be so high up, it is going to be visible in front of the listed buildings. So it's going to affect the setting of the listed buildings because their roofs will be so high up, and they're going to overlook into the back gardens of all the people who live along North End.
Yep.
Those are planning reasons too. So.
All right, thank you for those, Catherine. Robin's next.
Yeah, I'm going to not vote on this one or the next one because I think it's going to come to planning committee. I've listened to the members' views, and I think I can best represent the members' views at committee in the new unitary and been able to have a vote on it and discuss it at committee. If I vote now, I won't be able to take forward the views of other people to that committee, having heard them, and I won't be able to replicate them views. But we must remember at the start of this meeting, we all declared our prejudicial issues and our membership of things. If we're going to have a recorded vote tonight, we must remember that we have declared our issues at the beginning of the meeting, and a recorded vote will be against something you've already declared that you've got an interest in. So as I declared I was on the committee, I just advised Councillor Murray, he declared he was a member of the committee. Now, whether that's a pecuniary interest or prejudicial interest, that's entirely for him to decide. But he's asked for a recorded vote, which was a wise thing for him to do. But I shall not be voting on this and the next application because I think I need to be able to speak on those and I'd like that recorded so we don't lose the town council's view on that. We don't know where we're going on the decisions, and I'm saying that before the decisions, so that there's no clouding with the vote tonight.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for that, Robin. Okay, I can see Mark's hand up.
I want to make a proposal then that we oppose this until we have enough information to make a reasoned vote based on lack of information on a development in a conservation area surrounded by listed buildings, plus we note heritage and the LFA are both objecting at this stage, and they too require further information.
Yeah, okay, Andy and then John.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to clarify my interest. My interest as a PPG, which represents the patient, does not represent the surgery. We represent the patient as far as we are concerned and air our views to the practice. There is no money involved in this, Councillor Stuttery, as you know. So yes, that's just a clarification.
Thank you, Angie. I appreciate that. Okay, John.
Yeah, could we put in, I agree with all of what Mark said a second ago, and can we put in the idea that we explore the possibility of registering both as assets of community interest as well?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We have done already with the hospital, but as Paul said, there's no harm doing that.
Just to find out whether it's possible or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy with that. Oh, Martin.
Yeah, could we take Councillor Harvey's, were you suggesting that was part of Councillor Cole's proposal?
Yes, I was. Yeah,
do you think it would be better if we had that as a separate one rather than lumping it all together?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
For no reason.
My proposal is based.
The subject separate.
Yeah.
My proposal is based purely on planning grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to, my point really is I would like that to be highlighted that this vote we're going to take is against a proposal on planning grounds for this application. It's got nothing to do with ongoing funding or whether we do or do not want any other surgery type changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
absolutely.
my proposal.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, so can we have hands up to those who agree with Councillor Cole's proposal?
So this is the O'Donoghue, Cole, Harvey, Ralph. Try. That's 5.
Okay, those against Mark's proposal?
Hirons, Mahi. That's 2.
Okay. And abstention, sorry, Robin, you're an abstention, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
just
there
1.
any other abstentions? No. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, so next is the Verney Close Family Practice. Outline planning permission of existing development and erection of 1 residential building comprising 6 flats, off-street parking, bin storage and bicycle storage. What are members' thoughts here? Mark?
I make the same proposal for this application. Not enough information because it's an outline planning application in a conservation area, and for all exactly the same reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah. one thing that it was mentioned with the previous application, but it wasn't included, about doing an economic study, like the loss of having the 2 surgeries in town, and if there's going to be an economic impact on that. I don't know what members thought about that. John?
Not just an economic impact, there should be an equalities impact as well, because that's why we're against this, is that we fear that people who are in need of these local services are people who would otherwise be discriminated against on other grounds too, principally disability and possibly age as well. So I think there should be an equality impact statement done as well as an economic one.
To members, oh, hold on, we've got Robin and then Anthony. Robin?
Point of information, they've been asked for a quality impact study some time back in the historical HASC. It's information. They've got to provide a equality impact study to do with their other development, and I would imagine that would include their changes. So I think we need to, you may need to include that, but I do think you need to, outside the question of this, another time we need to ask the question of the other authority where they are with their quality impact assessment, which they were asked to do. I was present at the meeting, and they legally were asked to provide that for any changes they do a services impact assessment. So I think that's somewhere being done, but I don't think it's been produced yet. So I don't think John's wrong in asking for it, but I think outside what decision you make tonight, I think we need to, in another place, maybe environment, go and ask questions about where they are with it, because it's comes under health really.
Yeah. Anthony was next, and then John.
Okay, I was just going to say, whilst I agree entirely with the thrust of what's being said, this isn't actually a planning reason, is it, per se? No. It's a wider thing, and I wouldn't want to dilute or have us dilute the clear message about the planning issues with other, albeit important, issues.
No, it would be separate from the planning up. Yeah, definitely. But I think it's important because the two studies would be important. So
I think advice. I think we should remove it from it and do it for environment as a separate question. Yeah. Because it would cloud the issue on planning grounds.
Yeah, we could put it to Environment Committee. Yeah. And are you happy to move the economic one there as well?
I'm not moving anything. I'm just suggesting that might be a way forward.
Of course you're not. Yeah, I forgot.
I'm just making observations, Chairman. I'm just saying those observations. I'm not
didn't say
you have to do what I say at all.
Nina, he didn't speak. Robin did not say a word. No.
It was an observation.
Okay, Paul Hylands.
Yeah, someone said at the beginning of this, oh, well, it's the same as the North End surgery. It isn't, because there's no listed building near here. So
conservation area.
The Verney Close one is close to effectively the setting of a listed building, because it isn't. It's just different.
No, it's a conservation area.
This was actually built as a lodging house for nurses from the hospital originally, back in the 1960s, I think.
No, I think it's a conservation area, Paul.
It's conservation area, yeah, but that is not the same as.
No. Okay, I've got Mark's hand.
Yeah, just to clarify, my proposal was very clear. It was only the conservation area. I didn't mention listed buildings, but I said for the same reasons that we're opposing we want the North End one, more information. We want more information on Verney Close.
Yeah. Right, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to affirm Mark's point. Both the surgeries are in the conservation area, and having an AOP is not appropriate because of the regulations that we've quoted before. Yeah, just that point, really.
Okay, so are we happy to object? Oh, sorry, Martin's hand.
Yeah. being in a conservation area and where this is situated in Verney Close is not as detrimental in my view because of the other buildings around it. They're not as old in the other parts of the conservation area in North End. But the same, as has been said, the same issue with more information, I think, is required because it's in the conservation area. And is there any reason, like we have done with other developments, to ask their planners to come and give us their ideas? They probably haven't instigated anybody to do those detailed plans, which is why we haven't got them. But if they did, then like with other developments, we could maybe work with them.
Yeah.
If that is the case, we can at least tell them what we don't like about things to build on that. And lastly, the visitors parking in our agenda pack. Now, I've seen car park wardens give tickets to people because there's double yellow lines along that footpath. Is that where they're really saying they still own that area?
Yes.
Indicative layout.
It specifically says so in the statement.
Yes, I know it says so, but it seems strange that for a long, long time, people have got tickets, car parking tickets.
Oh, I know.
There, and there's double yellow lines out there.
I mean, we work near there. We've not passed very often, and we know people who've actually parked there while they nipped in to collect a prescription and have been ticketed in the time they were in the doctor's.
Yeah, not for us to maybe clarify, but something to.
It's a question we can raise.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we also have to note that this is in the floodplain. So putting a residential building in the floodplain is a no-no. Even though we know they do it, but it's a planning reason.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so let's vote on the objection first. So those who are happy to object to this application on the grounds that Mark has already specified.
For planning reasons.
Oh yeah,
for planning reasons.
Sorry, are we doing a recorded vote again, or?
I don't think, Andy, no, because the recorded vote was for the last one.
Okay.
Nobody's asked for this one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Those against?
1, 2, 3.
I
Oh,
get
no,
my
2.
vote recorded as abstained. I'm entitled to ask for that. So it's recorded in the minutes that I've abstained.
Yeah, Nina will put that in, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Right, so the other thing that we could discuss quickly then is, do we ask the doctors and who they're working with to have maybe a Zoom meeting so that they know that we're happy to work with them? We all appreciate that the town is growing and our doctor's surgeries are not just for the people that live in Buckingham, they are for the wider area. Is it worth us trying to do a meeting to bring everybody together, and the surgery can then hear the residents' views themselves and try and work together, because we have worked successfully with other developers, and it'd be a shame to miss a trick on this one, I think. So can I just have some members' views on that? Mark?
Yeah, I think our problem here is going to be that Swan Practice is not a developer. My feeling, I may be wrong, is that they want to get outline permission so they can sell the site to a developer. The developer will then decide what sort of housing he wants, what style, what shape, how many, etc. So I don't think the Swan are going to be able to answer that to us. I think of more use would be for us as a planning committee to publish the letter from the Swan practice tonight as a press release, so the whole town can see. As you know, all the social media sites have been buzzing with this. The big reassurance is bullet point number 1: the Swan practice remains committed to providing a town centre presence, and I think that is answering everyone's concerns at the moment. I can't see a public meeting is going to learn anything more from that. But as far as the development's concerned, I don't think Swan practice is in a position to tell us what the houses are going to look like.
Okay, right, I've got Robin, and then I've got Paul, and that's it for now.
What we can't do is confuse planning with their future health plans. They're not the same thing, and we mustn't allow ourselves to confuse ourselves with that. What we can do, I think, is we've already got a agreement that we want a public meeting with them. We don't need to agree that. That circumstances have predicted that hasn't taken place. But I do think that if it comes to health things, like they mentioned the one estate and they've mentioned other stuff, I think we should let that move to the Environment Committee so that we keep a designation of difference when we're discussing future health provision and planning. Let us keep the two subjects together, because while we might want to assist them in that, that's not a planning question. And if we confuse the issues, we'll weaken ourselves as a planning committee, and we've got terms of reference in the Environment Committee. Do that? I would have
No,
thought that,
what I'm saying is about planning. That's what I'm talking about.
Well,
because there's obviously residents' concerns here. We've got concerns with the listed building, the conservation area, but we know they've got to sell the land.
But what Mark says, Chairman, is absolutely right. That we haven't got anyone to talk to, but we can progress the conversations through the Environment Committee on the health questions and on the sustainability assessments that John's mentioned, and the one estate question. They are medical questions. Let's do that and keep the two things separate. You know, it does allow one to act better. If we try and cloud the waters here on a planning application, it wouldn't be right. It allows Andy, who sits on the board, to act to bring stuff back to us. It allows, you know, Martin to bring stuff back to council, and then maybe we can get to a point where we can have a proper adult discussion about that stuff. But I don't think it's the planning committee's job. It's the Environment Committee's job, as they're designated for health.
Well, we have talked to developers before, though, so I know we're not in that position with the developer yet. But okay, who else up their hand up? Oh, Paul Hirons.
Yeah, I've never seen this in writing, but I've heard it from several different sources. The Buckinghamshire County Council always wanted to redevelop along that side of Verney Close, which would include this site. So I'm very surprised that we haven't seen, some sort of outline plan or something of that, because doing something like they're talking about here would make it, well, much more expensive and difficult to do just that, because it'll have a new set of houses or a new set of block of flats down there. Now, I don't think there's anything we can do about that, but it does seem that Buckinghamshire County Council are really missing a trick by not being in on this act. Otherwise, if they leave it, or they're just making it difficult for Swan practice, because they will then do all this only for Buckinghamshire to say, no, you can't do it. We're going to do this instead. And I just find this rather an unsatisfactory situation if there is really a plan to do something along there. And I don't really know. I'm in no position to find out.
I wonder if our town clerks, because that was a discussion a couple of years ago, is at the Red Cross Centre. They wanted to level that at one point, didn't they?
I'm in the same position as Paul. I've heard things from various sources, but not actually seen anything in writing. Certainly, they have got a short-term arrangement with the church and the Red Cross Centre, and that presumably is because they'd like to make money from it at some point. But obviously, the surgery are doing what's in the surgery's interests.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ben.
if it's helpful, and only if the committee want it to be so, these questions can be put in an email to me, and I'll take these questions up with the Cabinet Member for Economic Development, because it's, as Paul says, it's an economic development question. But I think those questions have to be phrased: have you any plans? Did you have any plans? And if not, but not talk about this application.
Yeah.
He has to answer me. If he doesn't answer me and then subsequently it comes out that he had an idea of doing something and he says, if we haven't got any idea of doing something, then he's going to be in terrible trouble. So I think if the precise concerns are put to me, I'll go to that Cabinet member and ask him a direct question on your behalf, and I'll copy it back to the relevant, either Paul or Catherine, because we don't know. And we've heard lots of conversations. We've also heard lots of conversations from a developer as well in Buckingham, telling us all what the county's going to be doing. And I think it's all got rather murky, and I think we just need clarity. Yes, no, we're not about being against, it's just knowing the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't see that being a problem. Ask some questions.
But if I write that, it only needs redrafting. So
no worries. Okay, so 10.4, we're on to 10 Newcombe Crescent, loft conversion.
Sorry, Lisa, did we ever decide on whether I'm registering as assets of community value? Was that a decision we made? I know we separated it out of the decision.
Yeah, I think we did. We agreed, didn't we? Yeah, okay. We did. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
That was separate, Paul, to the application.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Any issues with the loft conversion?
No. There you go.
No. Okay. All right. So we're happy with that. 10.5, 23 Hilltop Avenue. Do we have any discussions on that? No. Oh, Mark.
Yeah, I'll just make the point. This is decking over a ditch, which comprises most of their back garden, so it's giving them a level surface. They do back on top the Holloway, which is the bridle path, which I'm sure Carolyn knows well, going up to Maids Morton. Later on this evening, we will raise an issue about the trees along there, but not at the moment. But anyway, I can see no problem with this. It's just enhancing what they've got.
There's no statutory notice at the moment, is there, Mark? You noticed?
There is on Hilltop Avenue, yes, but there wasn't on Newcombe Crescent. Sorry, I should have said Hilltop Avenue.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, Catherine.
Can I just correct Councillor Cole? This one is the last house at the inner end of Holloway Spinney. It doesn't back onto the Holloway. The one that backs onto the Holloway is Fleet Close.
Sorry, I'm confusing it with Fleet Close, so withdraw what I said. Still approved.
John, you had your hand up. Did you want to say anything on this? No. Okay. All right. So everybody's happy with this one, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we are on to 7 Spindle Mews, erection of summer house, 10.6. Any issues with this? No. No objections.
No.
No. Okay. 5 Twickenham Road is the next one, single story rear extension. Any issues on this one? No. Sorry, I am looking at all the squares and then swiping the screen, so it's no. Okay, right, so no objections to that one.
No.
Okay, so the next two are not for consultation, but does anybody want to talk on 10.8 9 Fleet Close?
Yes, 10.89, sorry, 9 Fleet Close. Yeah, it's an application for a lawful development certificate, but as Catherine has pointed out to us, permitted development rights have been removed from this part of Page Hill, so they will have to put a full application in, and this should be drawn to the attention of Aylesbury Vale planning.
Well, we can't. They're gone.
Yeah, Buckinghamshire.
They call themselves Aylesbury Vale. Are part of it.
I know they do. Daft, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, Mark, did you?
Yeah, the documents I got in front of me talk about Aylesbury Vale development control, so I presume there's Aylesbury Vale planning. I didn't mention district council.
Yeah, I know, it's odd, isn't it?
Okay. The next one's Cooper's Wharf, Ford Street. Even though not for consultation. Oh, sorry.
Just to note on this one, I do believe that the trees in the Holloway have been cut behind the this premises, but that needs to be verified. It's either that one or the one before it, or the one below it, as you come up the Holloway. But I think it's this top one.
Okay. All right. So if they've been cut, then they haven't got permission for that.
Well, I think other things are happening at that development, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. All right. So we need to investigate that, don't we?
Could we ask Catherine? Catherine knows about this. Could she comment on it?
Yes, I contacted Neil Passmore, who is the open spaces, well, he's Lee's equivalent down there. And he says it's nothing to do with any work that he's commissioned, and he would have a look at it tonight when he got home. So I should hear in the morning what his judgment is. He did ask if it was us doing some devolved services down the footpath, but Lee says not.
All right, thank you for that. So we can wait for an email tomorrow to let us know some more on that one.
Yeah.
Mark?
If it is reported as considered to be illegal, can we have an agreement tonight this should go straight to enforcement? Because this could be it could be a land grab, this.
Yeah. Did you want to speak, John?
Yeah, I'm just agreeing with what Mark said.
Yeah. All right, because we have a show of hands that we are going to say something if we find out that it is this property. So
yeah,
I think that's fairly agreed. Yeah. All right, thank you.
that's if John puts his lights on and stops saving money so we can see. You're in the dark, Councillor Harvey.
Oh dear.
Looks like a Dutch old master.
Yes. Or Guy Fawkes about putting the gunpowder cloth.
Someone get him a candle. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey!
Oh, there he is. Okay, right. So, following minor amendments have been received. Are we noting those because we've already seen them before, haven't we? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Who's
Robin? On the minor amendments 10 and 11.
Yep.
I think we need to. I've started asking questions about those developments, about the, what type of roads they're putting in and all that sort of stuff. I think because we've been so badly burnt with the Lace Hill development, where late in the day we found out everything was not going. At some point, I think we need, when we're out of this virus, I think we need a meeting like we had years ago, where we get everybody around the table, allowing you to ask questions of them where all this stuff's going. Do you remember we used to have those meetings when I was on county, which gave members the opportunity to ask questions and our officers to ask their officers questions?
Yeah.
I think we need to get one of those meetings together on this estate, just with all the developers and that round the table to give some clarity to stuff. You can much better around the table talking to someone than waiting for a response from an email. And maybe if we can perhaps work together to action something like that nearer the time when we get out of this this situation where we can meet, and maybe we could suggest that we'd host that meeting. I felt they were very successful because we got minutes of those meetings, minutes of actions, and it allowed Catherine to start getting some stuff for the town councils to be involved. And let's not sleepwalk into a situation where these people move into an estate unfinished, unadopted, unready again. We have got it. We will hopefully at some point be in a discussion about lands up there with them, and we need to use that meeting for lots of different reasons. And at the moment, I think I don't see why I can't have those meetings. Dave Smith and Graham Smith used to orchestrate those meetings for me. Steve Essence will have to do that if I demand it, but I'm not going to do it yet. And I just think it allows you councillors to actually have chance at the table to discuss these things, no matter what I say privately.
That's a good idea.
I'm not a great one for pulling rank on this. You probably know more about these stuff than most.
No, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so item 11, planning decisions.
What are you drinking, John? That ain't Dettle, is it?
Well, Ben, is there any, Mark?
Yeah, if I could refer to Oddfellows Hall, which we lost that one, opposed and attend, but Catherine noted that all the neighbours' comments and the then county councillors' comments have been removed, even though we have not yet reached the 6-month appeal period. Could we ask for those to be reinstated, please, until the end of the 6 months, to give a true picture of the opposition that existed to this development?
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. Members happy with that?
Yeah.
Let me just swipe. Yep. Cool. Okay. Right. We got further down, withdrawn, Planet Inspectorate. Number 12, Buckinghamshire Council committee meetings. Anybody want to talk about those cancelled meetings? No. Paul?
Yeah. I'm concerned because there seems to be no normal provision for us to speak at them. We can only do it when they invite us onto it. Otherwise, we have no right, which we always, I think we had an actual right to speak to the committee, but we don't anymore. And I'm sad about that.
Yeah, I think that all we can discuss that further when it comes to Appendix E and F, because that's part of the Constitution that we want to question, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a bit, yeah, okay. It's a Constitution.
Yeah.
This is the meeting.
Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, I think we need to hear this in private session under item 19, working with Buckinghamshire Council. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let me just swipe. Nobody else? No. Okay. Right, so item 13, to receive for information the section of the Constitution covering the Planning Committee, Appendix E. So are members happy to not discuss this item here, but take it to private?
Private, yeah.
Yeah. Let me swipe. Yeah. Oh, Carolyn.
Can I just say, yes, I totally understand the private session, but I would just like to record the Buckingham Society's real concern at the proposals in this constitution. I don't know if the constitution itself was consulted on at public level.
Nope.
I'm afraid the society never saw anything about it anyway. I think the 3-minute rule is appalling, and I think we think there's far too much power in single hands. So we would be very concerned about the proposals within, and I would like to be part, even if it's a written part, of future discussions on how this goes forward.
Yeah,
Can I just,
yeah.
Sorry, can I just clarify in terms of the confidential part of the meeting? Carolyn is a member of the committee, so can be part of that confidential discussion. That's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Thanks, Paul.
I'll reserve what I'm going to say for that then.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Nobody else going to speak on this. Okay. So are we? Yeah, we'll take Appendix F as well to private. The same sort of thing. So 14 enforcement. Any new breaches? Mark?
Yeah, sorry, it's me again. Yes, this is with regard to number 10 Hilltop Avenue, which now 7 months ago was refused planning permission for the fence, which they said doesn't respect the open character of the area. They had 12 weeks in which to appeal. It's now 30 weeks. The fence is still there. Not only that, but they have moved in a lot of prefabricated shed, wooden shed building. They're obviously going to build it, which is stacked up against the fence now. And Catherine has drawn again enforcement's attention to this potential new breach, because of course there's no permitted development rights here. So it's not just the enforcement on the fence, it's a potential new breach if they put this shed up.
Yeah, good point. Has anybody else got any breaches? No. No. Okay. Matter to report. Any damage to superfluous, redundant signage in the town, access issues, or any other urgent matter? John.
I can't remember the exact position, but there are still some yellow signs up for Nightingale Rise, which of course no longer exists. It is now the Summerhouse Hill, isn't it? So I'm wondering whether all those could be removed. I think there's one just by Red Chili on Cornwall's Road, I think. There might be one elsewhere, but I'll try and keep my eye out. I'll photograph them when I come across them. But if we can just in principle, we shouldn't mention that. And the developer really should have taken those down, or the RSC, or whoever it was, put them up in the first place.
Yep, lovely, good point. Right, Mark.
Yeah, to report a sign that's been on the A421 bypass just south of the Stratford Road roundabout, ARDS Building Services. It's been there for about 6 weeks now, and it presumably refers to something that's going on behind the hedge in Linden Village. I have sent a photograph to Catherine.
Okay.
Which has gone to highways and been acknowledged.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Fabulous. Thank you. Right, so anybody else got anything? No. No. Okay. I don't have any chairman's items. Unless Catherine has anything for me.
Mark has something.
Are you being allowed chairman's items, or do they have to be chairpersons?
Oh, chairman.
Stop it.
I don't care. Right, Mark.
Madam Chairman, would you consider a press release based on the statement from the Swan practice, which I mentioned earlier, which could go to the press to allay people's concerns about the Swan practice remaining committed to providing a town centre presence?
I'll second that.
Town clerk, Paul.
I'm slightly cautious about that, because that would seem like if it was the town council issuing the town council's view, that's a different thing. But that's almost us issuing a statement that somebody else has written, and that would be for them to do, not for us to do.
Yeah, good point. I mean, maybe we could allay people's fears on social media if asked, and you know, it's in the public now, so we could point them to our minutes. They'll be form part of our minutes. There's nothing wrong in doing that. Right, I have 4, hold on. All right, 4 hands. All right, let's take Robin, John, Anthony, and then Paul.
Just doing this press release. For a start, that was a letter to us in and comment in public session. We don't normally communicate what a member of the public says in public session. They were not, we wouldn't normally communicate that. I think it's for the Swan practice to do that communication. There's nothing wrong in us doing a press release about what our actions are or have been, but I don't think we should cloud the issues. I understand Mark's sheer concern around this matter, but we could then be asked, well, I came to a public session You never did a press release over what I said. And, you know, we can't really do that. We could maybe just indicate to them that it's better that they communicate that to the public themselves. What they've given us, we are aware of it. We'll put it in our minutes. The public can look at our minutes.
Yep, that's what I said.
But I don't think we should, because it's like if you took a decision earlier, and then you're going to go and talk about that, which is the planning committee talking about two separate things. Their provision of healthcare in the community, and our decision on planning terms, and or your decision on planning terms, is not the same thing. So I think we must be very careful. I think I would like to ask that whatever decision you come about within the public session, that you make a press release about. I think we could agree the private session, if it's something of note, we agree in the public that we will make a statement of that conversation. I don't think that's unfair.
All right, can we get, I can't remember who I said after Robin. Was it John, Anthony and Paul, or? Yeah, okay, John.
I think we could issue a press release to say the town council was glad to hear, but was concerned to hear some of the statements made in the statement, and also issue a notice that explains what our decision has been about the planning applications.
Yeah, so like our reasoning why we came to the decision.
So we can comment on the statement that was made from our perspective, saying, you know, it was good to hear that blah 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 blah. You know, the intention to have a town centre health outlet of some kind, but we were very concerned that there's still yet few plans emerging, or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Anthony? Similar to what John said, I wondered whether we as a council could actually write back to the Swan practice and thank them for their letter, and word it in such a way that we pick up all the salient points that we would like in the public domain, and then we could publish our letter to the public. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that a bit devious?
Yeah. I don't know.
What is it we're trying to achieve with the press release?
To allay people's fears about the lack of medical facility forward in the town. And if we, as I say, if we wrote and said, "Dear Dr. Gabriel, thank you very much for assuring us that there will be a presence, and you will be letting us know where it will be in the not too distant future," or words to that effect, then that's our letter to him, which we can publish if we wish.
I think that is. I would just reiterate Robin's point that that's going. I think that's going outside the remit of this committee and into environment.
Right. Yeah.
And so perhaps we should be asking environment to pick up the issue.
Yeah.
So I can put it on the agenda for environment if that's easier.
Yeah.
I'm agreeable. Yeah, I just threw it up for discussion.
Yeah, and we can still point them
agree
to our
with Robin.
minutes. Their letter's going to be in our minutes. So, right, Paul Hirons.
Yeah, I mean, it's no big deal, this, but why don't we just do it in a proper adult way and ask George Gabriel if he minds us quoting his letter? Why do we always have to sort of say it so sort of really secret and all the rest of it? I think we should ask him if he's got any problem with us quoting his letter and then quote it. Full stop.
Well, I mean, we can suggest to him that there is a lot of public concern, and maybe if they put their letter out or comment on what their plans are, then that will alleviate a lot of fears. That's something they can do. I don't think it's something that we should be doing.
Okay.
But that's what I feel. Right, Robin's got his hand up.
I think the town clerk, though he agreed with me, was totally right. That we have to keep the two separate things completely separate, because we've took some decisions earlier on to refer stuff to the Environment Committee that they deal with health. And then this planning matter, we can comment on the planning matter. But I think the other thing we need to be able to be more, we can have a much better discussion from there we can further the Environment Committee with his letter as a starting point of a conversation. But I don't think we should be doing press releases for the doctor's surgery. It's up to the doctor's surgery to manage their own press. As much as we want to help them, we can get ourselves in. We're then going to go. You're going to go to a planning committee, and you're going to say something adverse to what you've just said in your press release. That's going to look really confused, and you're going to be mocked. So,
I think Mark's point was just to alleviate the fear, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, let's keep it separate and deep up. We've got committees for this. That's why you've got committees.
Yeah, we'll put it on. Well, Paul will put it on the other committee. That's fine.
Agreed.
Okay. Right. So we're having private session, but I would like to ask a favour. Can I just have a 2-minute break?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to.
Sorry, Paul.
I'm going to stop the YouTube view then, and I'll cut out in just a moment.
Yeah, I'll be back in 2 minutes.
We need to say goodbye to Pat Hardcastle as well.
Oh.